This program is proudly brought to you by Bianco Building Supplies, helping to build South Australian football.
Here we go. All right. Woo.
Good evening everyone, I'm Nat Adamopoulos and this is Full On Football, the only local TV show that promotes local South Australian football. Of course we had the Queen's long weekend birthday and I hope you all enjoyed that break from your normal games, but there were some games that were played last weekend and we were actually at the Western District Toros and Salisbury game, which we're going to show highlights of that later on in the show. We look at the round 11 fixtures for all three of the FFSA men's leagues. And we catch up with yet another one of our young football stars, and that is Ryan McGowan from Hearts Football Club. So we look forward to doing that. But now let's introduce our panel for tonight. Our first guest, I guess he would have a big smile on his face because his club has had a dream start to the 2008 season. They were obviously State League champions last year, coming in and promoted to the Premier League, currently sitting top of the table. And he did had a great year himself because he was 2007 Club Players of the Year and actually Players Player of the Year. So from Adelaide Comets we welcome Kon Antoniou. Welcome to Full On Football, Kon.
Thank you very much.
Now you couldn't have scripted it better really. You've gone newly promoted and sitting top of the table. Yep,
that's right. I think the start of the year, if you'd given us what we've got now, I think we'll be more than glad. We're happy to have that. So it's a very good start for the season, good start for the club and the boys. So
yeah, fantastic. Well, we're going to talk to you a bit further about that in the Premier League segment, but well, look, it's Friday the 13th, the only one that's in this year as well, but I'll tell you what, there's no bad luck here. When it comes to our next guest, Full On Football is very, very lucky indeed to have this person here tonight. And I look at it and I go, where do I start? He's a legend of South Australian football, absolute champion, a player of the past from the golden era of football, a man who I grew up watching with his lethal left foot and his deadly pinpoint accurate passes. He's black and white through and through. Fantastic. He was a player, a captain and coach of Adelaide City. He represented his state 45 times. He represented his country on 10 occasions in the late 60s and early 70s. He was the 1976 joint winner of the Player of the Year medal, which was the John Martins medal back then. He was also a member of the inaugural Adelaide Juventus NSL team in 1977, and he went on to play 127 NSL games for Adelaide City. He was also the NSL Coach of the Year in 1996 with Adelaide City after taking over from Zoran Matic after his 10-year stint. And it keeps going. A member of the inaugural Adelaide United Football Club as a football director. He was inducted into the inaugural South Australian Football Hall of Fame and then also into the Australian Football Hall of Fame. A very gracious welcome to gentleman John Perin.
Thank you, Nat. Good evening. How are you going?
Oh, very, very well.
Quite an intro there. Quite an intro. Look at very flattering. Thank you very much.
Oh, look, it's all there. And as I said, you've basically done it all. Very, very impressive resume, John, and wonderful to have you here tonight.
My pleasure. Lovely.
Now, I just want to chat with you for a little while, if I may. A lot of youngsters out there would not be familiar with you.
They weren't born when I was around. That's right.
No, they were. I was lucky enough I was. I've got a couple of snapshots of you, and which I want to talk to you about. The first one we see here, your left foot in action against Alex Zervis. Absolutely brilliant. As we can see there, you're sliding in on him and enjoying yourself.
Yes, in one of the local derbies that we had back then, of course, the Hellas Juventus derbies, and I think you can see by the crowd in the background there, the game was very, very potent back then, and we used to draw crowds of 10, 12,000 people to the derbies, and they're always special games. Oh,
most definitely, most definitely. Now, I've got some more shots here. You were in an area, or should I say era, as I say, the golden age of football. Played for South Australia. Now, those games were not just inter-club between, like we have with Adelaide United now. These were major games that you played. some of the games. Let's have a look at some of these photographs. 1964 you played Everton, 66 AS Roma, 67 Manchester United came over with a strong team, and that included George Best, Bobby Charlton,
yes.
Dennis Law, Nobby Stiles as well. We went through, these are some of the teams that you actually played: Nottingham Forest, Man City, Cardiff City, Legia Warsaw, Moscow Dynamo, Aberdeen, Chelsea, Middlesbrough, Rangers, Red Star Belgrade, New York Cosmos, Dundee United, Norwich City, AEK Athens and AC Milan, which we saw a photograph there of you. What was it like to play with against some of these teams?
Well, it's pretty unique to play against, you know, these big name players that we only saw perhaps on magazines, because we didn't get the broadcast that we do nowadays, and it was always special to picture your strengths and your weaknesses against these star players, and they're all special games, and the crowd loved them, and the SA state team had some great players as well. But you know, to play these state games, which obviously nowadays with the National League and with the A League and with the national team playing so many games against foreign countries, it's a lot easier for players to have that exposure. In our days, it was only these state games, and we used to wait for these state games to play against these overseas teams. There were always something special.
Well, look, I know that was part of my life because I went to see most of these matches. It was fantastic. I've got another photo here. This is another important part. When you were part of the first NSL team for Adelaide Juventus. Now, that must have been very, very exciting, not only for you, but also for South Australian football.
Absolutely. Look, it was a special day, of course, you know, the day when soccer went from so-called amateurism to so-called professionalism back then. It was the start of a new league, and football, our code, sorry, maybe I should call it soccer, it was the first code to go truly national, ahead of the football, AFL, ahead of the basketball, ahead of any other sport. So I think that's something that we can be proud of in our game. And for South Australia at the time, to have two teams in the start of the national professional league, as we called it back then, it was a special day for South Australia and for all the players involved. And we had some great players back then, and of course back then is when we had the era of Dixie Deans, a famous Celtic player that came out and played with us. And I think the crowd got value for money back then, as they do today, of course.
Oh, definitely. There were, I mean, you can just list off all the magnificent players that were in that era. And just looking at that photograph too, Edmund Kreft, has he swallowed a youth pill or what? He still looks fantastic.
No, you're dead right. Look, I caught up with Edmund last week, as a matter of fact, and I said to him then, I said, what do you take, Edmund? I said, you know, do you take youth pills or something? Because he has not changed, and I think you can verify that. We actually went to his 80th birthday party late last year, and he hasn't changed a day since that photo was taken, and that was what, 28 years ago, 27 years ago.
It's unreal, isn't it?
It's great to see that Edmund keeps himself so fit, so healthy, so trim, so elegant. I mean, he's always been an impeccable dresser, and today he's just exactly the same.
Yeah, definitely. Now I have to ask you this, because I do ask people this: Socceroo, what is it like playing for your country?
Look, I guess that's the pinnacle of anybody's career, of course, to put on the green and gold of your country, and that, to me, was the ultimate, really. And when I think back at the game that where I had my debut, it was in South Korea in a World Cup qualifying game, and there we were, 25,000 kilometres away from home, and sitting in a foreign country, and you're making your debut, and it was a special occasion. I would have loved to have made my debut in Australia in front of your family and friends, but it wasn't to be. And probably one of the regrets that I do have is that I never got to play a game for Australia in Australia.
Yeah.
But it was a special day, and no doubt these kids who come through now, who aspire to play in the national team, that's one thing they can look forward to, is to pull on the green and gold shirt, and it is one heck of a moment that you'll never forget.